Hello everybody and welcome to the video where we will be making peanut butter frozen yogurt, otherwise known as peanut butter froyo. So I'm super excited to try this recipe. I've never made it before, but I love peanut butter. I can just eat it straight, plain, with nothing. And I also love bananas. So that's why I chose this recipe to try, just because I love them both. On your recipe book, you can see there's so many different options for making frozen yogurt. And so today I'm just going to make the peanut butter banana one just because I love both of them and I wanted to try it out. So let's start with the ingredients that you will need to make peanut butter frozen yogurt. You will need 2 large ripe bananas. And so I had 2 large ripe bananas and I just broke them in half and put them in my freezer. I do recommend, if you have not froze your bananas already, see, I just broke them in half. In the blender, it's gonna take a little more work to blend that up. So if you have not already froze them, I would recommend slicing it into smaller slices just because your blender or food processor will blend it up easier. Next is a half of a cup of plain Greek yogurt. And so you can use plain Greek yogurt or you can use vanilla. They both will work. If you'd like to use fat-free, that's fine. If you'd like to use full fat, that's fine too. They're going to basically taste the same. The one with the fat though is going to be more creamy. So if you want kind of a thicker texture and for it to be more creamy and probably yummy, I would recommend doing the full fat. Then we are going to do a half of a cup of creamy natural peanut butter. Really, any peanut butter will work. This is the peanut butter that I got. And then it says add raw honey as needed. And so honey is super sweet. So I know we've used it in a few recipes this week. And if you're going to add it, I would recommend maybe waiting till the end, just because bananas and peanut butter are pretty sweet already. And so I'm going to put everything in, blend it up, and I'm gonna do a taste test about halfway through. And if I think it needs to be sweeter, I'll just put a couple squirts of honey in. So let's get started putting everything in our blender. So the first thing I'm going to add is a half of a cup of my yogurt. And this is my measuring cup. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. And so just remember to look at your measurements to make sure you are measuring correctly. So it only calls for a half of a cup. I kind of went over a little. That looks about right. So again, not very much at all. So I'm going to just take my spoon, pour it into my blender. Okay, so I now have added my Greek yogurt. The next step is going to be adding a half a cup of your peanut butter. So I'm going to get my measuring cup. And I am going to use a different spoon for this. And again, you are going to use just a half of a cup. And you can always start with this recipe, and then if you feel you want to adapt, if you want more or less or something, that is totally fine too. Okay, so that's a half a cup of peanut butter, and I'm going to just put that into my blender. Super creamy. This is going to be good. I do know that we have a recipe that does call for a chocolate version of this, and all you will do is add hot cocoa into this. And if you love peanut butter, banana, and chocolate together, I think that would be really good adding this into this recipe too. But for today, we'll start with this. So I have that in there. I'm now going to add my bananas. Again, I do recommend trying to make them a little smaller. Mine are kind of defrosted, so I'm just going to kind of break them up a little so it's easier to blend. So I've added my bananas, my yogurt, and my peanut butter, and raw honey as needed. So I'm gonna add the honey at the very end. So the next step is to put your lid on. So whether you're using a food processor, if you're using a blender, go ahead and put your lid on. And go ahead and start blending. Your blender may look a little different than mine. I'm using a Ninja blender. If you're using a food processor, it may look a little different, but go ahead and start blending. And I would stop probably about halfway through just to, again, taste test, and then you may also have to use a spoon to just kind of scrape the sides off of the blender. So let's see how this goes. So it is blending nicely. Mine is looking pretty thick, and I'm just gonna smush all of that down. I do have some stuff on the edges that I'm pushing down. I am going to get a separate spoon to go ahead and try this to see if I feel like I need to add any honey. Very good. That's so good. Very good. It's super creamy. So I do think that this recipe, compared to other frozen yogurts you may be making, it's meant to be a little thicker. I know I did make one for the strawberry frozen yogurt, and that was a little more runny, but I do think this is meant to be a little thicker. I don't think it really needs to be any sweeter, but I am going to just add just a little honey, just for a little additional flavor. So I just did like a little one circle, that was it. If you want this to be a little more runny, as you can see, like mine's super thick, like it's not going anywhere. You could add just a dash of water if you wanted, but I do think this is how the recipe is supposed to be. And so I'm going to add my lid back on, and I'm going to blend it just a few more seconds. Okay, yeah, so looks so much better this time around. You can see it's all really blended together, kind of like a tan beige color, and it's a little more runny this time around, so it was able to mix up a little. So I am not going to add any water to this. If you would like yours, again, to be, I guess, less thick of a texture, you can add a little, but I actually think the recipe is fine the way that it is. So the next step is going to be getting a container like this, something that you can put a lid on and close completely, an airtight container in the freezer. You are going to freeze this for 2 to 3 hours, depending on how soft and hard you would like your frozen yogurt to be. So again, I am just going to start pouring this. And you can see as I pour, it's pretty thick, thicker than the strawberry yogurt recipe, but it's gonna be super creamy and good. And again, this is the texture I'm sure it's supposed to be. Look how good this is. If you love Reese's peanut butter cups, I would recommend trying this and putting a little cocoa powder into it. I think that would be really good. It smells kind of like a peanut butter cup, and I love peanut butter cups, so. This smells so good. This is my finished product. You can see it's kind of moving around, so the blender really mixed it up nicely and didn't make it too thick. So I'm going to put this in my freezer now for 2 to 3 hours and come back and enjoy some nice peanut butter frozen yogurt. I hope you all enjoy this activity.